Welcome, everybody, to the next level. My name is Brian Daniels. I am joined by my co-host, Josh Thunder Shaver. What's going on, Josh?
Yo,
What's up, man?
how's it
And
going, man?
today we have two very special guests. We got the two guys from Overrun Games. We have Aaron Lutes and Anthony Graceffa, and they are here to talk about their game, Arcaxer. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing today?
Doing
Hey, I'm
good.
doing great. Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're glad to have you guys on the show. We're going to talk all about Arcaxer. But before we get into our conversation today, I want to talk about our sponsor, ExpressVPN. So, you're looking for, if you're wondering what a VPN is, a virtual private network, and it keeps you safe while you're doing online gaming, helps prevent DDoS attacks, also protects your information, your IP address gets stolen from somebody. There's a lot of very bad people out there on the internet, believe it or not, who are always trying to get your information. So what you can do is you can go to expressvpn.com/the next level, and you will get 3 months free on a 12-month subscription. You can sign up for that right now at expressvpn.com/the next level. There'll be a link down below in the description here on YouTube, and go check that out. I use it. It's great. There's a lot of different servers all across the country. It even allows you to access, certain versions of like Netflix and Hulu and things like that if you're looking for different shows and stuff to watch. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get into the show. Guys, thank you guys for joining us here. We're going to have a conversation about Arcaxer, and we're also going to talk about VR here today as well. So, how I met Aaron and Anthony. So, I met these guys at PopCon in Indianapolis. I believe that was back in July. And what was cool about PopCon this year was they had a big virtual reality space. And there were several developers there, of which I was really interested in these guys and their game Arcaxer. Now, if you don't know what Arcaxer is, we're going to really get into that here in a second. But do you guys like top-down RPGs? Because I'm a big fan of top-down RPGs. One of my favorite top-down games ever made is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I'm a huge old-school gamer, and I also like Diablo. Do you like Diablo? Because you're probably going to like this game as well. I guarantee you will like this game, because it has a lot of Diablo elements to it. There's a lot of the motion controls for VR in this game are one of the best that I've ever played in a game. I will say, absolutely, you guys do a great job of that. Guys, I gotta know why VR? What made you decide to develop a game in virtual reality? Why that?
Good question. Well, I've been working in VR for really long time now. Ever since the Oculus DK2 came out in I think it was 2015.
Yep.
Right. But I went to GDC that year, and they had the Oculus DK2 demo.
Yeah,
there for the first time, and I lined up and tried that, and it was just like so mind blowing to me. I had never done any kind of like head mounted display thing until then, and I was just like, this is absolutely the future. Like, this is so cool, and I absolutely want to be doing stuff with this. So ever since then, I've been devoting all of my development to just VR and AR stuff.
Yeah, actually, Anthony got in line early enough at GDC that he didn't get pink eye, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's always good.
almost everyone got it that year.
Oh my god. Oh wow. That's awesome, man. How did you two meet up?
We met in college. Actually, 2012. We were on the same floor of the dorms because like they kind of pack all the nerds onto the same floor at Chico. I think they grouped the layers like roughly by majors. So yeah, we were in there with all the STEM nerds, and we just kind of stayed up all night, every night, playing Magic and talking about video games and playing Mario Golf and just random shit like that. And yeah, from there we started working together on class projects, on extracurricular projects, on like kick around ideas. And yeah, it's just that's where it all began.
That's awesome, man. So I gotta know. I know that Arcaxer has to take a lot of inspiration from loot-based gaming like Diablo and things like that. Why this specific type of game? Is this were these kind of games also you guys' favorite types of games to play as well? Is that what made you decide to make this kind of game, this type of genre of game for VR?
So the progression of how this game kind of came to be is kind of interesting. I'm actually not the hugest like top-down ARPG fan. I
okay.
do I played Diablo and I do like those kind of games, but they're not my favorites. I'm more of like a old school JRPG fan. I really like the old like Final Fantasies. I'm a big fan of the Shin Megami Tensei series and Dragon Quest.
Yes.
And I wanted to make something that made you feel like you were the JRPG hero, but in VR for that extra immersiveness. So I wanted to kind of give the player these like big epic boss fight moments, and have them really feel it as if they are the character. So that was kind of the whole premise of the game. And the switching perspectives, the top-down view combined with the first-person combat came about in a project we did before Arcaxer called Wave Magic, which kind of had a similar concept. But the whole point of doing the top-down view in that game was just we were experiencing with ways to get around VR sickness for movement. And at the time, a lot of games for VR were just wave shooters. So you'd kind of just be in one location and you'd kill things for a while, and that was the whole game. And sometimes you'd have teleport locomotion. There were people making games with thumbstick smooth locomotion, but because that made a lot of people sick, I was like, there's got to be something else we could do here. So I thought of, okay, let's try a third-person overworld where you move a character in kind of diorama scale, and then for battles, let's switch to first person so you can have the cool immersive VR battle experience. So that's kind of how that started. And then when we stopped working on Wave Magic and started working on Arcaxer, I thought that idea was really cool and made our game unique. So let's continue that and turn this into this turn-based RPG thing I want to make.
Yeah. Outside of utility, as like it's a really good way to make people not get sick. I am pretty prone to VR sickness compared to like other VR devs, and Arcaxer is super easy on my stomach. But
that's good.
After Anthony made that choice to like, to simplify things, I really like the way that it turned out. Like he said, it feels like you're inside of a big shoebox diorama, and it's a really fun way to play with scale and perspective, and it shows off my art in a way that I really enjoy. So I'm happy with the way that turned out.
Yeah, speaking of the art, I really dig the like pixelization, like menus and things like that. It's like a throwback to old Final Fantasy games, like on the NES. Or old RPG games. That's what I love about the menus. That's one thing that I first noticed once you guys had me do the demo of it at PopCon there, or the game at PopCon there. I really dig that. And you're absolutely right. The thing about VR is I have played several VR games, and most of them take place in a first-person setting, and you can get motion sickness rather quickly from that. And what I never knew, it was, I'll say it like this. I never knew that your game was one that I wanted in VR or needed in VR because of the overworld third person kind of top down or over the top view, which does make it easier to take in you guys' world that you've created and the worlds you have created versus experiencing everything from a first person perspective. Now, there are some games, right, that are better off experienced in first person, don't get me wrong, but this type of game, I feel strongly, and I agree, the direction you guys took does do the game justice being in a third person setting where you can better see everything around you. You can see your character better. It's easier to kind of interact with the objects in the world, easier that way too. Especially when you're in the dungeons and you're going through the levels of the dungeon stuff, it's easier to see the layout, and it's also easier to see the things you've missed, by the way, too. So what was some of the things that were super important to you guys when it came to developing this game as far as like gameplay goes? Like, what were some things that you kind of prioritized, if you will, when it came to developing this game for the gameplay purposes anyway?
Well, like I said before, the number one thing was just giving the player that epic feeling during a boss battle or key moment.
Yeah,
I just wanted them to have the feeling of like I am the JRPG hero and I'm experiencing this myself. So everything was kind of designed around that. Most of our efforts went into these big like boss set pieces. So all of our boss battles are kind of these like big bombastic. They all have something. Yeah. Something.
Every single one of them still makes you feel really cool.
Yeah.
They all have something unique about them. Something that happens to like the level around you, or the boss transforms or has a giant or a second form or something. Yeah. So that was kind of a lot of the game was just a way to deliver you to these big boss set pieces. That was kind of the most important thing. And then the second thing is I wanted to really take advantage of the third person view in a way that's made so people would look at it and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense in VR. And to do that, I added these puzzles that you'd interact with your big floating hands.
Yes.
And so there's little puzzles in the overworld big areas and in the dungeon where you'll have to like pick up objects and do little things with them to progress the room or discover treasure or whatever it is.
Yeah, I do like those.
God hand puzzles are some of my favorite moments in the game.
Yeah, those are really cool. The ability to still interact in the overworld and is really cool. Like, I'm a big puzzle fan too. And like I meant, I referenced Zelda earlier, and some of the cool things about Zelda are the puzzles, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm a big fan of puzzles. Now, if you're throwing like tons of puzzles at me, okay, let's tone it down a little bit. Like, this is still an action game, but like you guys do that very well too. And because you still have to lean over and like grab the boxes, and you have to move them around. You actually physically have to do those things, and still having to have that physical interaction, albeit not in first person. That's an interesting way to experience a game, and I appreciate you guys do that. Now let's talk about when you get into a battle, right? Because the battles take place in first person, and I really dig how you guys do the battles, because like I remember the fireball. I love being able to charge, like I can almost charge it up like it's a kamehameha, like throw it at the enemy. I really dig that. You guys did a really great job. What was the oh, and I lost my camera. That's fine.
You lost your video.
What was the process like for the design stuff in first person? How was that? Like, what was that like for the designing the battles and things?
That was we actually took some ideas for the combat from our project Wave Magic as well. The number one thing is being the spell aiming system.
Yeah.
So when you fire your spells in the game, they kind of have this like a little bit of arc to them, so you can so they're guided a bit. So we didn't want it to feel like a shooter. We didn't want it to just be like a point and shoot and then your magic shoots and happens. We wanted it to feel more like you're like harnessing this magic and flinging it with your momentum of your arm. So that's most of the abilities in the game are kind of based around that whole like spell slinging mechanic. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time trying to make sure that felt really good, and I'm pretty happy with that came out. Sometimes there's a little learning curve to it when you see a lot of players try it for the first time. Sometimes they'll struggle with the aiming, but usually people figure it out pretty quickly.
It's a lot more forgiving than Wave Magic was.
Yeah.
And then on top of the casting, on the enemy turn, the game kind of turns into this bullet hell where when they fire their attacks at you, you have to actually physically move out of the way with your head. Yeah. And that was the second core thing I wanted to.
That part turned out really well. There were some projectile enemies, right, in Wave Magic, but like the bullet hell aspects, it really came a long way for Arcaxer.
Because I've played a lot of VR games with artificial stick locomotion, and it's cool to be able to move around a world freely like that, but you kind of lose something in the physical element of VR when you can just move your character with a stick, because if something comes at you, you can just, flick the stick to the left and move out of the way. Where since in our game, you can't move around the arena with the thumbstick, you do have to physically move out of the way of everything.
Yeah. And I think it's important still to remind people this is a VR game, right? So you still want to create that magic of virtual reality in there, and you guys have done a really good job of combining those two elements of like the player having to have some sort of movement to it, because you didn't want to make a game where they could just sit down. And I know, like, I think I tried one time sitting down and that didn't work out very well. I was like, okay, I got to get off my ass and actually like move around to play this, because I'm getting my ass stomped by some of these enemies you throw my way. But other aspect I really like too is the training aspect of this game, where you level up and train your characters. So for those who don't know, you guys have like a punching bag. We actually have to physically hit it to level up your stats and stuff like that. Explain that. What was that like? What was it like? What was the thought process like when it came to making putting that aspect of the game in?
God, I don't even remember why we put that in originally. The first one was the treadmill.
The treadmill, which you were really excited about, and I mean, people love it. So
And I think at the time I just thought it was funny. I'm like, what
Yeah,
if
little
I
gag,
made
yeah.
people run in a video game?
It's a
for
workout. You are
stats?
gonna work
Yeah.
out, and so is your character too. Yeah.
And I just thought that idea was so ridiculous that I as soon as I came up with the idea, I'm like, I'm putting that in immediately.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. And then naturally I was like, well, I got the treadmill, we gotta do something else too, just because can't have just one mini game. So then we developed the punching bag, which was just another fun thing.
I like yeah, that was good because that also you said you wanted that person to feel like it's them playing the game and not
Yeah.
me playing a character.
Yeah.
And granted, you do have like an avatar in the overworld, but it's still you doing it. And when you're doing the mini games, that's when it reverts to, I believe it reverts to first person still, right? Because you got to actually hit the punching bag and things and do the treadmill and stuff. So I thought that was really funny. I got a chuckle out of that when my wife saw me having to run in the middle of the floor, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, I'm leveling my character up. Okay,
Get stronger.
There's like a sliding dab that some of our players had developed that like maximizes the gyroscopes.
Oh yeah, players in our Discord have been trying to like rise the most efficient movement to like.
Oh, that's great.
Because it's based on your the faster your like arms and head or just your arms are moving, your head still has to move so it detects you running. But like people will be like, yeah, if you just like do this motion, you get the most stats the quickest. That's not how you're supposed to play the game.
They're trying to like cheat the system. It's like, how can we like move but like not have to actually run?
Well, I mean, I can get the thing moving to like 3 and 4 kilometers per hour, but some of our players like easily can go up to like 10. And yeah, it's just from really min maxing their
just have a leaderboard. Have a leaderboard for that thing. Right?
That would be funny actually.
Or the punching bag.
Who can if we do that,
who can hit the hardest?
Dislocate their shoulder if we
try. Oh yeah, dude, we don't want
test on the
I've learned that as a competitive gamer, I've been in the competitive gaming scene. If you throw up a leaderboard for anything, there are people that will absolutely try to find ways to get up there. They'll do whatever they can.
For real.
Like for real, like no doubt, no joke.
We've got a handful of our devoted players who have done a couple of speed runs, and we've recently got kind of a small influx of people specifically coming to do speed runs.
That's cool.
I'm excited. Cool. So far, that no one's found any like game breaking. You do this real quick and you go through the wall and you're at the end lost. But I'm excited to see what happens.
I will say with all the new players we've been getting, I'm seeing some new bug reports of things that I didn't think were like possible at all. Like just absolutely like how this should not be possible. What is happening? We've never had a game before with this many players, so like it's been really interesting just like figuring out things about your own like application with all these people in it.
That's cool. I don't know. Are you guys familiar with like SGDQ, like Summer Games Done Quick, or getting your games done quick in general?
Oh yeah. I watch SGDQ every year.
Oh, I do too. You don't see a lot of VR, but man, I hope we can see more VR on there. I would love to see people like breaking these games in virtual reality, like you guys are talking about. And I've talked with developers who they really like seeing that because it's like they're testing it for you kind of in a way to figure out stuff.
Yeah,
I know. And there's some that like, there was something recently. There was a game recently that people got mad about because the developer patched the glitch and everybody was using that as a speed run. And they're like, damn it, now we can't do that anymore. So how are we supposed to break these records that did use that way? So it's like,
80% runs are pretty nuts. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the game is incredible. You guys have done a fantastic job. What was how long was the development time for the game to get it up on the App Lab when it was on App Lab?
It was about 2 years before we launched on App Lab, and it was 3 years of work. We put in another year or so on the casino post content patch.
Nice. Yeah, you guys just got put up on the Quest store finally.
Yeah,
the MetaQuest store. That's awesome. You guys were on App Lab for a long time. I know when you guys gave me a copy to review, it was up on App Lab still, but now you guys are finally on the actual Meta store, which is great. The MetaQuest store, which is fantastic. And you guys just put out a big update too. So there was a lot that you guys threw in that recent update. I think that came out on like the 13th, I believe, is when that came out. What were some of the biggest things you guys wanted to provide people in that update that you guys were happy to release in that?
So because we were moving to the MetaQuest store, we wanted our main goal was just to do a really big polish pass. So we went through and updated a lot of the UI, fixed a ton of bugs, added new music, new sound effects, new abilities. We just wanted the whole experience of the game front to back to feel like it was fresh and complete. So that was the number one thing. And then obviously we had to add some things for longtime players as well. So we added a new secret boss to the end of the game. That's really cool and kind of previews what's to come, which I think is kind of exciting. And then we added like some new overworld puzzles and some new combat mechanics and stuff like that.
I'm really excited about the post-game secret boss, just because he's a Space Marine biker mice from Mars, and I finished him like a year and a half ago.
That's actually pretty cool.
He's so much fun.
That's freaking awesome.
And GW stopped suing people for saying Space Marine, but it's not in the game, so don't sue me.
Oh yeah. So let's and the guys, they can find your game, so they can get your game on PC VR. It's on the Steam store. They can go get this on the Vive still, right? Is it still available on the HTC Vive, I believe?
Yeah, I think you can buy it on Steam. It'll work.
And buy it on Steam. It'll work on all those. And then of course the Meta Quest as well, Quest 2. Let's talk about VR in general for a second. Because I know you don't hear a lot of, at least I don't see a lot of people mainstream talking about VR. I think that people need to talk about VR more. I know people tend to be fixated on console gaming or just PC gaming in general. I'm a person that I own a PSVR and I have a Quest 2, and I've enjoyed both for different reasons, of course. I'm curious, like, what are some games that you guys, outside of Arcaxer, of course, that you guys have enjoyed playing on VR that you guys kind of really get into, that, you know, if you were to recommend someone, of course, besides your game, to play for the first time if they've never experienced VR before?
If you've never experienced VR, I would start with something like Super Hot has always been one of my go-tos.
Super Hot.
I could play that forever.
Super Hot's like a good one. It's really easy on your stomach too.
Yeah.
Beat Saber obviously is huge. I think you can even put your mom in Beat Saber and she'll have fun with that.
Yeah.
If you're more advanced, I recently finished Bone Lab and I really enjoyed that game. That game is really tough on your stomach though. So if you are not a VR veteran, I recommend not going into that game till you've
go to that first.
Yeah.
I did like the first 40 minutes one time we were hanging out. Yeah. Overall, I did okay, but there were a couple moments where I was like, I need to sit down.
What about that game in particular gives you the stomach inducing?
Well, they kind of dare you a few times.
Yeah. Well, so for one thing, they kind of broke all the rules of like basicness and VR development by your whole body is like this physical thing that like in most VR games, wherever your hand is in real life, you can expect to see it there, like in the game. But in Bone Lab, you could like get your arm caught on like a pipe and then your hand will be like stuck. Even though your hand's here in real life, it could be like stuck back here.
Oh,
and, like,
okay.
That's
if you like,
freaky,
the game can force you to move in ways you wouldn't expect. Like if you bumped into a wall too hard, it could force you off the wall, and then that unexpected movement can make you sick.
Well, I mean, spoil the first opening sequence that like is designed to make you vomit.
Yeah, the game opens with you hanging yourself, which is very grim.
Over like this hell pit, and you actually drop, and then
you drop into this big pit. Yeah.
And so that's the first 2 minutes.
Okay. I need to check that out. That sounds kind of neat.
It
sounds weird, but like that sounds kind of different.
It's
very Half-Life. In that kind of old experimental physics phase of gaming. It's pretty.
The game feels like they took like the worlds of Portal and Half-Life 2 and then created things extremely inspired by them, except in VR.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What about you, Aaron? What are some games that you like really dig in VR?
Yeah, I don't do quite as much VR as Anthony. Walkabout Mini Golf is a basic bitch.
That's a good one.
That I like because it's fun to hang out with your friends. Mini golf's really fun, but it's also expensive. So.
It is.
Honestly, Arcaxer is still my favorite game to play in VR.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not enough cute stuff. Although Zenith has a pretty cool vibe. It doesn't have a lot to do. One that I need to pick up now that I have a little time and some extra money is Garden of the Sea. It's that kind of animal collecting, ridiculous life simulator, cute game. That one was really fun.
Nice.
It's definitely the cutest game in VR right now, so I'm gonna check that out.
Now I know for the longest time, VR was kind of known as not so much about gaming as it was experiencing stuff in VR, like people parachuting or skydiving or the roller coaster stuff. Do you guys feel now that I guess you could say a stigma on VR gaming has kind of gotten away from that now, where we're in this like space where it is more about the gaming side of things versus the I'm just going to fire up YouTube VR on my Quest and experience like that kind of stuff? Like, do you feel it's kind of gotten away from that more, and it's not so much about just loading up an experience and like that happening to you, and more about video gaming?
Yeah, I think there was a really big shift in the past couple years, and
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
thing that caused that, I think, was the Oculus Quest, because now they had this all-in-one thing with six DOF movement that a kid asked for their birthday. It costs as much as a regular game console. There's no PC, just put it on and you could play anything on the thing without much hassle. And I think the fact that made it so much easier for people to get into VR is kind of why we like started shifting from being just an enthusiast thing to more of a mainstream thing.
I definitely use the word experiences derogatorily.
Yeah.
when talking about stuff. I have kind of a weird sight on this one. I think a lot of what caused us to move away from experiences was all the big companies failing to make money in VR, and they were so focused on those really simple, straightforward experiences that they could bash out in 3 months, and then it's 5 minutes of gameplay and no one wanted to do it again, and they were like, why aren't we making money off this? So they all went away, and now a bunch of indie studios are making like actually cool games, which is really neat to see.
Yeah, I firmly agree, because there for a while it felt almost like mobile gaming in VR, where the games weren't really hitting the mark, if you get what I mean. Like, they didn't feel, it felt more experience-based gaming, not actually here to play a game while making use of the VR technology, if that makes any sense to what I'm saying. And over the years, because I remember, it's kind of funny that I met you guys at PopCon, because that was actually where I first experienced VR, was the very first PopCon they had in 2012. And so I remember it was my first experience with VR. I don't remember what this is, and maybe you guys know, but there was a developer who had this game, and it was almost like Mario Galaxy, and you had this alien and you were on a planet, and it was all in VR, and you could see like you were standing on a planet in like third person, but then like you could see the other planets around you, and you could like jump to them like in Mario Galaxy. It was kind of like a tech demo almost. I don't know if it was an actual game, but it was kind of like a tech demo. And VR has come a long way from it being just a machine to use for tech demos now, because I kind of felt that for the longest time, like when the Rift came out and everything, that it was all about, oh, I'm just going to make this really cool tech demo or this really cool experience in VR. And now, like you guys have said, you've got actual video game companies putting out games for VR, and they're taking it a lot more seriously now. I mean, I recently got into playing Resident Evil 4 on the Quest 2, and I'm like, man, this is so cool to be able to play a game like this that came out a long time ago on the GameCube, and I'm experiencing this first person. This is like a really, I'm digging this, to be able to play that kind of game that never was in first person to begin with, but now to be able to play that whole entire game, and it's almost an exact 1-for-1 of that game. So to be able to see that or to be able to play games like that is really cool. And actually seeing, we've got, because now you've got battle royale games now seem to be taking the scene, like Population 1 and things like that in VR. I just wish that I wish it was talked about more. What do you think how do you think the evolution of VR is going to go to where it's going to be able to be as mainstream as, say, console gaming, for instance? Like, what do you think it's going to take? Like, where would you guys like to see VR gaming go in the next 5-6 years?
For me, I think the most important thing is just for the headset to be as small and comfortable as possible. When people want to play a game or do something, like, there needs to be as little barrier to entry to doing that as possible.
Mhm.
So if we get to the point where a VR headset is just like putting on a pair of sunglasses and it's just as comfortable, it's going to be way more mainstream than it is right now. And I think with a lot of headsets moving to like these new thinner lenses that require way less space in the headset, they're starting to look a lot sleeker, and they are getting lighter and more efficient. And I think moving like that direction is what's going to be the major push to more people adopting this.
Yeah, form factor and price point are definitely going to be big factors in the tipping point.
Yeah, I agree too. Because I will tell you that when I first got my Quest, the strap that they give you with that is the most uncomfortable thing. I mean, I don't know if they've changed it since they rebranded to Meta, but
I think it's the same still.
I think it's the same. It's like the same, almost shitty quality brand. I hate to say that, but like it's pretty bad. Like
it's terrible.
Everyone recommends that you pick up the Kiwi Halo head strap, right?
Yeah,
you got to buy a third party.
Yeah, I got a better one now for mine, but like, you're absolutely right. It is the actual interface itself that can get in the way of people enjoying the game, because you got people who have contacts, that wear glasses, and so sometimes those can get in the way. Of course, it's not their fault. That's just who they are.
Yeah.
Or you have people with disabilities and things like that too. You want to try to make it more open for them. One thing that I've been really impressed with lately, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, is the hand tracking feature that we have now. The capability where you don't need a controller. It put that away. And I almost forgot, because I turned on my Quest the other day, and I keep forgetting that I have hand tracking. So I see my hand. I'm like, oh, whoa, this is weird. Like, I keep forgetting that I can do that. There are some games that do make use of the hand tracking. Do you guys think that that's something that do you think we should still have controllers? Do you think they should lean more into the hand tracking? Because the hand tracking seems to be pretty good.
Yes, we need controllers is my short answer.
We absolutely need controllers. And it's just because, as cool as hand tracking is, and it can be really cool for a lot of things, just you need some physical feedback when you do actions. Otherwise, there's just no way to get as precise inputs.
And 5 buttons per hand is a lot. Our first game, Wave Magic, was actually designed around what was the hardware, Anthony?
It was the Leap Motion hand tracker.
And it was really neat, but Anthony had to do so much extra workarounds in Magic to make the thing like register, like this means that you're walking forward and this means that you're attacking, and like
it's like a sign language for each game, kind of.
Exactly. And it's a whole extra layer of difficulty. And Arcaxer uses all 10 buttons.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think that for some games, it could work out pretty well. Like I know for VR Bowling, which I reviewed that game too, that I believe also lets you use hand tracking. And that kind of works.
Yeah.
But for me, I think, and we'll go into a conversation about the evolution of VR, what's next for VR, because what can we do? Because I am one of those people that I'm all about progression in video games in general. Like what are video games going to do? Because I mean, when you look at console gaming, consoles, the only console that has actually took on VR is PlayStation at the moment, which I would love to see something from Microsoft. They were going to do that, but they haven't done it in the console gaming space yet. And I don't count the cardboard VR stuff from Nintendo. I don't count that. I have that, but I don't count that. But I think it's kind of neat though. But for me personally, I was thinking about this too when I was playing the bowling game. I would love, because Sony, I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure of using a DualSense controller yet. That thing is amazing. I love the DualSense, the ability to kind of feel that feedback of things. What I was talking with somebody the other day about this, and I'm like, man, what would be really cool is if in VR, if we could feel the weight of items when we pick them up in a controller. Like, for instance, in a bowling ball, because it's funny, like I'm playing the bowling game and I'm like, okay, choose your weight. But I mean, to me, I'm not going to feel the difference, right? It's just it's going to be harder to throw, but I don't feel that. So I think it'd be kind of cool to have maybe some sort of, and we know, and I'm sure there's another Quest 3 coming along sooner or later with the rebranding and everything taking place now for the Quest 2. But it'd be kind of neat to have like a weighted kind of a controller that can maybe let you feel the weight, because in VR, it's all about you want to feel the things you're doing, right? You want to not just see it and be able to move your head around and your fingers and all that stuff, but you want to feel the things you're feeling too, in a way. So, me personally, I think it'd be kind of cool to see or feel rather the weight of stuff, the objects I'm touching, and not necessarily like I don't want there to be a warning on the box saying, "Hey, if you can't lift anything
This
over
will
50
give you a
pounds,
hernia."
don't play this game."
That reminds me. Have you guys heard of the oh my god, I tried this
The
haptic
OWO?
vest at
Yeah.
GDC. What was it called? The
The OWO.
OWO?
Yeah.
No,
I tried
what is
this.
this? They have a
Nice.
haptic vest.
This
You
one's
gotta
amazing.
look this up. It's
I
it was a
gotta see this,
vest.
yeah.
It doesn't do vibrations. It has like electrodes that are attached to your torso,
What?
and it
Yeah.
can actually hurt you. Like
Yeah.
so
I watched
they had me
somebody
do
get
this
stabbed. It
demo.
was great.
where like he was like, yeah, do you want to feel like what it's like to be stabbed? And I was like, no. And Aaron's like, do it. And he,
No.
he's like, turn it up to 10. And there's literally a pain slider.
The
And he
best
turns it
part-
up to 10. And it just feels like you're getting like shocked in the stomach. And he's like, look, and I can make it feel like what it's like to turn the knife too. And I'm just like, oh, stop it.
They don't allow any final sensations over like a 3, but he was like, yeah, let's turn this up to 10, and he just
But,
stabbed
like,
him right in the gut.
It also like they put me in a really simple game where like you had like a Gatling gun, and every time
Yeah.
I shot, it shocked your bicep, which forced your arm to shoot backwards.
Oh.
So it was like simulating recoil of the gun, which felt really crazy. And then every time you got hit, it would like shock you on your body where you got hit. So it made the game way scarier because I didn't want to be shocked. So like, I was playing so nervously.
Oh my god.
Well, and then
Yeah,
you can
excellent.
see in the frame behind Anthony, he's got his B haptics vest on too, which is a little less violent.
Yeah, this is a haptic vest, but it literally just vibrates.
It's a pretty
this is
simple
more-
peripheral to.
This
to
is more
hack
of a
into.
fun thing
Yeah.
instead of a torture device.
And then another thing we saw at GDC, a lot more lightweight, was this like it was a motion generator, and the demo they had was like a little paper cup, and at the bottom they had rigged just this thing to give haptic feedback, and it was synced to this video. So there was like marbles rolling in the cup, there was popcorn popping in the cup, and it all felt really synced to the actual video. It was really neat, and it was this
that's cool.
tiny little cup too, so that might be maybe more feasible than hooking everyone in the world up to pain suits. They were working with like a lot of car companies because everything's becoming all electronic, but people still like the haptic feedback. But it'd be really cool to see in a controller.
That's insane.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine putting on a vest and like you want to get shot. Like what it feels like? No, I don't. Like,
That was fun.
that's hilarious. I could imagine maybe if that was like if the horror industry in the gaming side of things was like
That's literally where I went.
like like they had those decision based games, where the haptic
Yeah.
vest, you make the wrong decision and you're like, oh, you're gonna die now. So like
Yeah.
They have
Your
so
arm
many
is coming
waivers.
off.
they'd have to sign off
Yeah.
waivers upon waivers of people to buy that shit in the first place to not get sued. Like you can't sue us if we die playing this game.
Yeah, you can't
Imagine
hook that up to a
downloading like
Telltale game.
malware that just
Oh my
like
god.
kept
Oh,
shocking your
don't-
biceps.
No,
so you
Anthony,
couldn't-
don't give them ideas, man.
We're making a Black Mirror episode now.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
You know how we said leaderboards? How much pain can you take on the leaderboard? Like,
yeah, no, this is
You want to
some
get
real,
stabbed?
like some Hellraiser Black Mirror stuff. I'm into it.
That's insane. It's insane. People
Actually,
are
I
nuts,
just-
man. There are
I
people
just
that would do
finished a
that.
Hellraiser marathon. They're all horrible. We could totally make this
They-
happen.
They
Oh,
absolutely
God.
are.
Oh man, that's crazy. I was gonna say, you guys been to GDC. What are some cool things you've seen outside of like that? I guess that's kind of cool. The haptic vest thing. Like, what are some? Yeah, what are some things you've seen like really cool that are maybe coming up for VR?
Well, this one's not VR. Anthony, remember
That's
that,
fine. Yeah, do it.
that AI voice thing?
Oh yeah. Wait, a lot of people are doing cool stuff with it. I'm sure you guys have
Yeah.
seen like the AI image generators and stuff out there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
There's this one company working on like AI voice acting software where they trained like really convincing voices to do like you could just type in a script and it would read it out, but it could do a lot of emotions like laughing and crying and stuff.
Yeah,
that
you would
wouldn't
like
expect.
you would emotion code. It was like all color coded, right? It was really neat.
Mhm.
And especially Arcaxer's got a lot of voice acting, but like if we could use
Yeah.
AI, it could have a lot more voice acting.
that's,
Yeah.
that's crazy, man. VR, like I know a lot of people. They get like they get worried about VR, if they're being too real and things like
Yeah.
that, and the things like that. Me, I think it's funny. Like, I know a lot of people, like my wife really loves the horror games in VR. She loves the like the paranormal shit. Like me personally, I can't do that, man. It freaks me the hell out. Like,
We're planning to play Phasmophobia tonight.
Yeah, I'm
and
literally gonna play it
Oh,
tonight.
hey.
in
Anthony,
VR.
Anthony doesn't have a headset, and I get freaked out outside a headset, so no thank you.
Oh yeah.
I'm a horror movie fanatic, but yeah, like
Hey, that's
Phasmophobia
cool.
gets under my skin.
That's awesome, man. What are some things you guys want to see happen in VR? Like, what would you guys think would be some cool additions to VR? Not just as a developer, but as a gamer too, on both sides of the coin.
For me, I want to see better AR headsets. I feel like we're just kind of starting to get there.
Yeah.
But I'm one of the few people that still plays Pokemon Go, and I really want a good AR game where I can just run around a city and just like fight monsters like in the street. Like that would be so.
Yeah.
If you had the Bose frames, but with a HoloLens UI for Pokemon Go, that would bring my childhood dreams to life for sure.
Yeah.
That would be cool to have. I would love to see Nintendo in the same space as VR. That would be neat because then we could do like VR Mario games or things like that. Would be, man. Could you imagine like Mario 64 in VR? That'd be so crazy. That'd be wild.
I'd play it twice.
That would be wild to see that.
I think like Zelda could definitely work.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you see the one where somebody did the first the original Legend of Zelda game? They put it in VR. They did a first person.
No.
The NES.
Yeah, they did like this.
That's crazy.
They did this like weird first person. It's out there. You have to find it. I don't know if it's on YouTube or not.
I want it now.
They did this thing where it was super weird, and you had to actually put your hand out like this for the shield to block the things that shoot at you. That you have to reflect back in the water and stuff. And I thought that was one of the most interesting things. But it still used the old NES graphics, so it looks
crazy.
really weird. It looks super weird.
That's what I think is cool.
I'll tell you what, we do that with the Mixar on the Quest 2 with those shaky black and white cameras. That would vibe pretty well.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about the headset itself. I mean, yeah, we need to do some evolution with the headset too, because I know a lot of people, they get a little intimidated by the headsets sometimes. Because I know for me, I think some people having the ability to just throw a headset on without having to do all the adjusting would be kind of nice in a way. Because I know some people don't. I think some people that have bad VR experiences, they don't take enough time to adjust their headset properly like they should. They want to. I mean, playing on a VR is not as instantaneous like it is loading up a console or a PC.
Yeah, then getting your focal length set on your eyes with the head strap, it's different for everyone, and it's a little complex.
So I would like
I thought VR was just blurry for the first 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of adjusting you have to do because, and it also can be different based on the game you're playing too.
Oh yeah.
If you're playing like a sports game or which there isn't really too many of those, or if you're doing just kind of like VR chat, you don't really care about too much. You're not really gaming. You're just kind of social. It's a social setting. But yeah, there's a lot of, you have to take some time. And I think a lot of people don't do that. I've talked to many people that play VR or they do it like at conventions. I do a lot of conventions too. And some conventions have now had VR as part of their gaming room, which I think is pretty sweet to see that. And a lot of times the people that don't like their experience with VR, I think it's because they didn't take the time to adjust it properly. And so there's times where I've had to be like, okay, like if you take the time to adjust it properly, and it also can be dependent on if they have that crappy strap that comes with it, which can get worn over time with tons of people using the same VR headset at a con, especially. I would like to see that be something that is worked on, is the actual module itself.
Yeah.
And
I will say the Quest Pro is definitely a lot easier to get set up. There's only one twist to get the headset set right, instead of having to fiddle and adjust and hang. Yeah, it's a lot.
And what I've noticed, when you use the Quest Pro, it'll tell you if the headset's seated wrong on your head too.
Oh, nice.
So it'll be like, your IPD is wrong. Yeah, it'll be like, please adjust your lenses, and then please move the headset up, and it'll have a little meter showing you where you should place it on your head. I think stuff like
that's
that is
cool.
super
Well,
helpful.
I know it got leaked forever ago in the SDK for the Quest Pro, but like the foveated rendering based on where your eyes are actually looking. There's definitely a lot of stuff that yeah, AI can assist with that too. That's exciting, yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know these games they do like height tracking because they'll do a really good job of kind of trying to of telling how tall you are. And the eye tracking is good. That's a good thing. That's
really
actually
cool,
pretty
yeah.
great to be able to do that. Does it render based on where your eyes are?
Not right now. It's something that's going to have to be implemented later.
Maybe
But
it's a
once they
patent
do,
application.
yeah. Well, once they get it working, it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because that
the
would make a
amount of-
lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of resources they'll be able to save by only rendering the stuff your eyeballs are looking at
You're
in high
looking
res
at,
is
yeah.
going to be
Mhm.
really cool.
That's amazing, man. I've always found the technology in VR to be just so amazing compared to consoles. Not that consoles are bad,
Yeah.
but it's just the fact that there's so many moving parts that you're not aware of.
Yeah, VR is still
Especially if-
magic, which is cool.
What's that?
It's still magic. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still,
magic.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, yeah.
How do they make that work?
Yeah, and being able to use like I know 3D audio is really great too for VR. I mean, I think it's a pretty key component to have. I know
Mhm.
consoles have been using 3D audio in the last like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
The 3D audio is very important. Like I know for me as a big I play a lot of Call of Duty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like 3D audio is very important when you're wanting to make sure that you can hear footsteps and know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So that's very important in virtual reality
Yeah.
because unlike a console where I can't just turn my head and see a guy behind me, that's super important when playing those kind of games in VR to just be able to look over your shoulder and see a person there. I think that's kind of neat. I would love to see more games like man, could you imagine like if Activision did like Call of Duty in VR? That'd be kind of different. Like to be able to do stuff like that would be super neat. Graphically, what do you think about graphics wise, the progression in graphics? I know a lot of people are concerned about 60 FPS or 120. I know the Quest 2 can do 120, which is super nice. If you've not played any games in 120, I recommend doing that if you're able to, because the smoothness is just so nice.
Well, I will say, for me at least, Arcaxer doesn't look like a game from 10 years ago because it's easier to render. It looks like that because I want it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like simple stylized graphics, so I don't really care.
Yeah. I know, and I'm the same way because that's why I love you guys' game, because for me, I don't want to sound like the old man on the block, but man, there's so y'all see, you laugh because you know where I'm about to go.
Yeah.
It's that we in this generation of gaming, I grew up in the old NES era. Okay. I'm an 80s. I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 84. And me personally, I've never really cared that much about graphics. Right. And for me, it's gameplay. If you can give me a game that plays well and has a good story, right, I'm all about it. Now, it doesn't mean I don't care at all about how things look, because let's face it, consoles are hella expensive. Some of this shit's pretty expensive, right? Whereas I think VR is kind of nice in a nice price range now.
Not bad,
with what Meta has done with the Quest and stuff. Like now, it's actually getting more cost effective to be able to get into VR, whereas years ago was not at all.
Yeah,
it was very expensive to get into VR, especially when
standalone headsets make it a lot easier.
Yeah, and not having to have a $3,000 to $4,000 PC to run VR is what's amazing too about the Quest. But you have people that care so much about graphics and the frame rate, and me personally, man, I'm just like, look, I don't. 60 FPS is great. It depends on certain games you're playing. I think for me, it's the game you're playing. And with Arcaxer, I don't care about the frame rate. Like, I mean, now the frames better be good, but like
you don't want to be throwing up. So like, we'll keep it over 40.
No, not at all. So like, but it makes sense for a game like you guys because your game has kind of an old school feel to it, right? It's new school and old school in that sense. So I don't need games like that to be 120 FPS. I don't really care. I just want them to work well, work great, and provide me with a great amount of entertainment for what I get out of it. you guys have your game at a really nice price point. I think $24.99 is a good price point. I know there's a lot of games out there that are like $40 to $50, and that's kind of I think that's a little bit much for VR. I know there's some people that are like, man, why are VR games so expensive, dude? Can you imagine developing a VR game? Like, it's different. It's a whole nother beast. It's not like someone's just sitting in front of a TV watching a screen with a controller. It's a whole other thing. So I understand the prices.
Yeah, it is actually. It's kind of nice now that we've moved off the App Lab onto the main store. We are no longer. People are like, why is it so expensive? People are like, oh, that's a good price.
No, that's a good price. It's not expensive.
It's on the App Lab. You know, the assumption is that it's unfinished and bad. So $25 for an unfinished bad game. That's a lot, but that wasn't our case.
No, not at all. You guys' game is great. And the thing is like, I think we have now people are getting way too spoiled. I don't see that in the sense of VR gaming, though. I don't think people are like that in the virtual reality space. You see that more in console gaming. But what's funny is like these VR headsets are pretty powerful. I mean, if they can run 120 FPS and you don't need to go buy a $4,000 TV to get that, right? Or to get variable refresh rate VRR and stuff like that. You can get all that in a headset and not need a TV. I think that's amazing to be able to have that power, and the power in such a little bitty. I mean, the Quest is small, man. Like that's a lot to be able to have in there, which I love. Now I got to ask you guys something as we're getting down to time. What's next for Overrun Games? Well, I know you guys just had Arcaxer and you guys had this release on the meta. What's next? Are you guys already talking about your next project? What can you give us a little glimpse into the future as far as what you guys have coming up next?
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually working on a sequel for Arcaxer now, which we're tentatively just calling Arcaxer 2.
Perfect.
And
simple for now.
Keep it simple. Yeah, there you go.
We're in pre-production, so we're still developing the story and look dev, and Aaron's doing some early art and stuff. But we're super excited about it. We want to put a bigger focus on co-op in the next game, so we're definitely going to be doing some multiplayer features.
Nice.
And more of the same, but better.
But more, yeah. So our Arcaxer was made over like 2-3 years of nights and weekends and holidays while we had other real large jobs that required a lot of our time and attention and energy.
Sure.
So Arcaxer 2, we actually have like a budget and we're going to be able to work on it pretty much full time. And that's
nice.
Really, really exciting.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you guys. I can't wait to see what you guys have next for Arcaxer. I hope that you guys, we get some new features, maybe there's some new features in the next game. I'm all about newness in the sequels and stuff like that. But you guys have already got a lot to live up to for the next game, because this game has been amazing. Like I thoroughly enjoyed playing it and discovering the worlds that you guys have created for everybody. I encourage all of you, please go pick up this game. I'm going to leave some links in the description below here for everyone to be able to go and purchase on the various platforms. You guys can go pick it up at right now. Like I said, it's only $24.99. That's an amazing price for all the content you get in this game. That's a great price, because let's face it, there's a lot of console games out there that are now $70, right? $70. That's like you could buy almost 3 copies of Arcaxer for that price, man. There's $70 games that are terrible. I want them, but not now. But they're horrible games, and they are not as enjoyed. They've not given me as much joy as you guys have with this game. So thank you guys for providing people a game like this, because we need more games like this. I love these kind of loot based games that are top down things. I just dig that type of game. As someone who RPGs is my favorite genre. That's my favorite genre of game is RPG. And I can't wait to see what you guys have next for us in your sequel. And please, guys, once again, go to the links below, get the game, check it out, watch some videos. We also, on our YouTube channel here, I did a review of Arcaxer. You guys can go watch that review. I know it's not current, it's not based off the current build, but still go scope it out nonetheless. It's my review. I absolutely love the game. And please, 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 if you haven't yet, go follow these guys on Twitter. I'll leave you guys' social media links in the description below as well. And thank you, Anthony and Aaron, for being on the next level with us here. We do certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the show. You guys are always welcome back, especially when you guys start ready to promote Arcaxer 2. You got to come back on here and we'll talk all about that when that comes out.
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely be able to review that too. But we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until then, we'll see you guys. Take it easy.
Take care, all.